Hey, what's up there, YouTubers and those who may be watching this on Facebook? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Switch/gaming video for this week, for the week of October 6th to the 12th. And we got 6 stories to cover this week, including basically a game called Enchanted Port, which is many are accusing it as a ripoff to Cuphead, though. Some listings for possible Switch games, including an ESRB rating for Call of Juarez Gunslinger, to a listing to Metro Redux might be coming to the Nintendo Switch. And we're also going to be talking about the whole situation, or at least give my thoughts on the whole situation on the whole Blizzard and Activision and China situation that really has started to grab a lot of attention recently, especially some of the decisions Activision has made in regards to that whole thing. Before we get started, though, we'll get started with a quick My 2 cents. Some of the stories that caught my attention, but I'm not going to talk hugely about. The first one is that we are learning that The Witcher 3 from the Nintendo Switch, the street date has been broken, and so far the game, at least in some places like Walmart, are selling the game right now, even though the game is supposed to come out on October 15th. And I would say, while I could understand why some people may not be pleased with this, though, bear in mind The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Complete Edition is a port of the original game released on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. So, I can understand why people don't like the fact that the street date's been broken, but I'm not losing sleep that it is or anything like that, since by now most people, not everyone, but most people may have already played The Witcher 3. We also have rumors about supposedly a specs, or at least someone leaking basically information on what the Switch 2 might be. You could check out the link in the description under the quick My 2 cent. And honestly, and this was from Game Rant, and honestly, based on what I read so far, until there's official confirmation on it, I'm saying this sounds a little bit far-fetched. I find this one hard to believe, at least from what I'm seeing from, because it sounds like what this leaker is claiming is that the so-called Switch 2 is going to be a console, not a console handheld hybrid like the Switch is right now. So I find this one hard to believe. But again, that's my opinion on that one. We also learned from DualShock that the voice actor who played Batman from not only the Arkham series, but most people may remember him from the 90s Batman the Animated Series, believe his name is Kevin Conroy, if I'm saying the name correctly, will not be involved in the upcoming WB Montreal's new game, which many people believe it's being referred to as Batman Night of the Owls. So it will be very interesting to see who's going to voice Batman. I remember hearing that someone else voiced Batman in Batman Arkham Origin and all that stuff. I was somewhat disappointed. I'm not really losing sleep over it. But there are rumors going around that this new Batman game might be making its way over to the Nintendo Switch, and supposedly it's running on Unreal Engine 4, but supposedly it was supposed to be announced at Sony's State of Play, but that never happened. And last but not least, one of the ex-producers of the 2003 release of The Simpsons Hit and Run would love to do a remaster or a remake of that game, and honestly, I would be down with it. We're getting a remake of SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. Certainly would be nice to see The Simpsons Hit and Run get a remaster or remake treatment, considering that many consider that the best Simpsons game out there. I consider it the second best, since I consider the Simpsons arcade game being the best Simpsons game out there. Sadly, I don't know who owns the rights right now. Last time I remember, I think it was EA, and they put out, the Simpsons Tap Out and all that stuff, so who knows who owns the rights. If it's EA, then odds are we're not going to see it happen, though. But it would be nice to see Simpsons Hit and Run be remastered, and I would like to see it come to the Nintendo Switch, though. Okay, with those quick My 2 cent part out of the way, we'll get started with our first one, and this one has to do with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Now, for those who know, the game just recently came out, and, well, not everybody is pleased with the game. The game has, like FIFA 20, especially the FIFA 20 on the Switch, it's getting review bombed by a lot of people, and most of the criticism is aimed towards the microtransaction in the game. And obviously, Ubisoft, like EA, is really heavily pushing it, and not everyone seems to be sitting with it. In fact, it got to the point that EA so far temporarily removed the microtransactions for the time being. In an article on GameSpot, it reads, quote, it reads the headlines, Ghost Recon Breakpoint controversy, microtransactions temporarily removed. Time savers were uninitially implemented due to an error on Ubisoft's part. The article reads that Tom Clancy's Recon Breakpoint went live for early access users earlier this week, and it's out now for everyone on PC, PS4, and Xbox One, although they also highlighted that it's suffering from several issues at the moment. Before the game's full release on Friday, Ubisoft confirms that many of the game's time-saving microtransactions had been removed due to a company error. It seems the removal is only temporarily, though. PC Games and reached out to Ubisoft regarding the many time savers available in Ghost Recon's Breakpoint, including attachments, cosmetics, and more. The developer-publisher said that the inclusion of the time saver items, skill points bundle, XP's boosters, and parts bundles for advanced weapon upgrades, was not our intention and was an error on our behalf. Ubisoft announced that these time savers are no longer part of the game. However, it looks like they will return at a later date. Ubisoft clarified that while these time savers were designed as an optional way for players to arrive later to the game post-launch to catch up with those who have been playing for longer, they have since been removed from our store. From now, there is no confirmation when they will return. As found in a thread on Ghost Recon's Breakpoint subreddit, many of the time savers included weapons, skill points, packs, vehicles, body armors, and others, all purchasable with the game's premium currency, Ghost Coins. One picture displayed the Ghost Coin exchange rate, with 600 coins going for approximately $5, all the way up to 12,000 coins running an estimated $80. Though the time savers had temporarily been removed, Ubisoft insists they were not designed to grant any advantage over players choosing not to use them. Further, Ghost Wars seem to be unaffected by time savers. Ubisoft said that the mode has been carefully balanced to ensure that no matter your experience as a player, no one has a critical advantage based on their progression. The company also confirmed that the gear level is disabled in PvP, players versus players, with caps put in place to lower the max value of stats coming from gears and weapons having a PvP specific damage. Now, I've played several Ubisoft's games before, particularly Ghost Recon Wildland and Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins, though. And while those games did have those microtransactions, I didn't find myself in a situation where I had to spend money on it or anything like that. So, and same with Far Cry 5, though. So it got to the point where I thought it was borderline close, but to the point that I was willing to tolerate it, even though I did not find myself spending money whatsoever. That said, however, that doesn't mean I'm dismissing the argument made towards that consumers have against this. And in a post-Star Wars Battlefront 2 world where we had the whole microtransaction and loot box debacle of a mess, though, I can see why some consumers are not happy about this, though. We've seen Ubisoft, companies like EA, Ubisoft, and Activision really push that recurring user spending kind of a situation. And while the situation with Ubisoft, I felt, isn't as bad as Activision and EA, that doesn't mean they're any better as well. And it worries me when Ubisoft is pulling these kind of stuff, because it worries me about some of their future titles, including their upcoming Gods and Monsters, which is being developed by the folks who did Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, some of the stuff sounds interesting, though. I like the art style. The gameplay does kind of give off a bit of a Rygar and Kid Icarus kind of vibe to it, and I've heard stories it takes a bit from Breath of the Wild, which I'm not against. But being this is Ubisoft, there is that concern that they are going to push the microtransaction part, and that's the part that bothers me a bit right here. And I can understand why consumers are upset about this, and they have a right to be upset about this, even if this isn't Ubisoft's intention and they claim it's the whole player's choice. We've seen how companies have gotten greedy before, and how they've really pushed the recurring user spending. Again, going back to Star Wars Battlefront 2, we all saw how the loot box situation played out on that one. So yeah, I can see why a lot of consumers are upset about it. Again, I know some people will argue some of the reviews or the user reviews have been going into the review bomb territory, and as I mentioned with FIFA 20 last week, I'm opposed to review bombing outright, but I understand the reason why people are not happy with this. So overall, like I said, I've played several Ubisoft games like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, Far Cry 5, Assassin's Creed Origins Odyssey, and I haven't found myself in a situation spending money on microtransactions or anything like that, but I understand why people are unhappy and angry about this, and I think it's only a matter of time before Ubisoft pulls what EA did with Star Wars Battlefront 2 to the point that it really, really upsets a lot of people. So overall, like I said before, I understand why people are not happy about this. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with supposedly 2 listings of games that, like, one getting spotted on the ESRB rating, and one website, and one apparently first appearing on a Portuguese gaming retail site before taken down. And these games could be coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at 2 games that could be heading over to the Nintendo Switch. Now, I've seen lately throughout the Switch's, currently the Switch's lineup as of right now, we've seen a lot of ports of old games come to the Nintendo Switch. While the Switch certainly has had some new games, such as Doom, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, that have been released this generation, and of course next week we got The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, which is also being released this generation. We've seen ports of older games have come to the Nintendo Switch, games like Dragon Dogma, Dark Arisen, to, Skyrim, which, although to be honest, Skyrim has been ported like so many times and all that stuff. Well, 2 new listings for games have recently popped up. One made an appearance on the ESRB rating sites, which is certainly interesting because this is a game that supposedly was teased earlier this year. And another one just recently popped up supposedly on a gaming retail site before it was taken down. In the first one, in an article posted on Nintendo Life, the first one reads that Metro Redux was listed for Nintendo Switch by a Portuguese retailer. This is from Nintendo Life. It reads, quote, "A listing for a Nintendo Switch version of Metro Redux has been listed by a Portuguese retailer. According to the local website Gaming Replay, the hybrid iteration is arriving this December and will be priced at $44.99 euros, about $50 or 40 pounds. Metro Redux contain Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, and will be the first time the series has appeared on a Nintendo platform. WCCF Tech managed to grab a screenshot of the listing before it was taken down. It showed a European box art, which could potentially be a mock-up, though. The other game that they mentioned, also from Nintendo Life, is that the Wild West first-person shooter Call of Juarez Gunslinger has been rated for the Switch by the ESRB. And they write, quote, A Nintendo Switch version of the Western-themed first-person shooter Call of Juarez Gunslinger has been rated by North American Entertainment Software Rating Board. The game was first released in 2013 by publisher Ubisoft and was acquired by Techland in 2018. It's the fourth entry in the Call of Juarez series and received positive reviews by critics when it was originally released. There has been no mention before now about a Call of Juarez Gunslinger come to the Switch, so we're guessing a more official announcement is on the way. And they also point out the trailer they had a while back, though. Now, the Call of Juarez one, I do remember hearing about this earlier this year. Supposedly, there was an interview with the person who worked at Techland pointing out any possibility about Dying Light 2 coming to the Nintendo Switch. And they made the statement that that probably isn't going to happen due to the fact that the engine they have for it couldn't run on the Nintendo Switch. However, they did tease that they did have a supposedly unannounced AAA game coming to the Nintendo Switch by year's end. And supposedly, later on, a supposedly Polish news site ran a story claiming that they had insider information pointing to Call Juarez Gunslinger being that game. And with this recent listing by the ESRB, which if this is accurate, it does sound like that we are getting the Call Juarez Gunslinger for the Nintendo Switch. Of course, we still have to wait to hear the official confirmation from Techland and so forth, so we won't know of it officially until they say something. But I have a feeling this is sounding more and more likely that Call Juarez Gunslinger is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Whether it's just an eShop only or whether we get a physical version, I don't know. But I certainly would be open for this game coming to the Nintendo Switch. All we need would just need to hear the official confirmation from Techland. As for the Metro Redux one, that one, again, I'm not against. I certainly would be open if it does come over. I did remember I have played Metro 2033 when it was released on the PS4 as part of the Metro Redux, and I like the whole story-driven first-person shooter game that game was, and I certainly would be open this coming to the Nintendo Switch. That said, assuming this is true, let's say for argument's sake it does come to. THQ Nordic announced, yeah, we're bringing this over to the Switch. There are some questions I do have to ask about it, though. Number one, is the original developers that worked on the original Xbox 360 PC or in the PS4 version, are they working on it? Or is a port house handling this, though? And most importantly, are we looking at this as an eShop only title? Are we looking at this as a physical version? And if it's a physical version, and I have this gut feeling that this could be the kind of situation we could find ourselves with Metro Redux if it comes to the Nintendo Switch. Is this one of those versions where you only get one of the games and we have to download the other one, which not everybody who owns a Switch is pleased with that. In fact, recently we've heard rumors going around that Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and Rogue might be that kind of game in that kind of situation. So unclear or not if that's true. It was spotted up in a Portuguese I think website or something like that, so we don't know if that's 100% accurate. Ubisoft hasn't said anything, but it does raise the question of whether this is the kind of direction Metroid Redux is. Personally, if they do bring it to the Switch, I would like to see both games in one cartridge, or at the very least maybe have like Metroid 2023 Redux or Metro Last Light Redux in separate cartridges, like sell them individually. I mean, either of those, I just don't like the idea when developers decide to pull we'll just put part of the game here and then we'll just sell, you have to download the rest. So we've seen developers pull that before. One example is Square Enix did that with Final Fantasy X and X2 in the North America version. That had me basically decide to import the Japanese Asian version, which had both games in one cartridge. So we'll have to wait and see, though. Like I said, I would like for this game to come to the Nintendo Switch. I just hope it's not one of those, one game's on one cartridge, the other one you have to download. So overall, Call of Juarez Gunslinger sounds like It sounds more and more likely it's coming to the Nintendo Switch. We just need to hear Techland give the official confirmation. Metroid Redux, would like for it to come to the Nintendo Switch, but something tells me if it does, if they do decide to bring this to the Switch, something tells me this is going to be one of those. It's going to be one game on the cartridge if they do a physical version, and the other one has to be download. I could be wrong on this one, I could, but I just have that gut feeling there's a chance that could be it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with Doom Eternal, unfortunately, getting delayed. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be talking about the unfortunate delay of Doom Eternal. Now, one of the big games I was hoping to look forward to being released this year was, one of the many games though, to be exact, but was Doom Eternal, a sequel to the 2016 release of Doom, which was a remake of the original classic Doom game, to be exact, which was definitely a fun game on the PS4 and surprisingly a good game on the Nintendo Switch. Even though it ran at 720p 30 frames per second, it was still an amazing game how they were managed to squeeze that in to the Nintendo Switch, and I was looking forward to that game, especially with the Switch version being handled by Panic Button. Though, although it is worth pointing out, Doom Eternal is a remake of the original Doom 2 and all, but nevertheless was still one of the many games I was looking forward to. Well, apparently it seems as though that game has, unfortunately, was hit with a delay. In an article from Game Industry Buzz, it reads that, quote, Doom Eternal delayed to March. ID Software pushed game's launch back into a packed first quarter to live up to standards of speed and polish. Switch version postponed further. It reads, quote, its software idea of heaven can wait. The studio today announced that Doom Eternal, the first-person shooter sequel that shows the traditional Hellbent franchise alternative afterlife, has been pushed back to March 20th release date. Throughout the development of Doom Eternal, our goal has been to deliver a game that exceeds your greatest expectation across the board. The studio sent a statement to make sure we're delivering the best experience for Doom Eternal, to live up to our standards of speed and polish. We made this decision to extend our launch date by a few months to March 20th, 2020. We know many fans will be disappointed by this delay, but we are now confident that Doom Eternal will deliver a gaming experience that is worth the wait. Additionally, the Switch version of the game has been delayed even further, as has the invasion mode where players can enter another game as a playable demon. There is no new release window for the Switch edition of Doom Eternal, but the invasion mode for other versions will be added to the game as a free update shortly after launch. In other Doom news, the studio announced that Doom 64 will launch on the Xbox One, PS4, and PC, in addition to the previous announced port for Switch. Excuse me. Those who pre-order Doom Eternal on any platform will get Doom 64 on the same platform for free when the retro game launches alongside Doom Eternal on March 20th. So, it is kind of a little disappointing to see Doom Eternal kind of get a bit of a delay. I mean, don't get me wrong, was looking forward to that game. Unfortunately, it is disappointed, but hopefully it will be worth the wait when the game comes out. Though hopefully it still maintains the over-the-top, fast-paced first-person shooter that the original Doom 2016 and was known for. So hopefully it still maintains that. I am a little worried in regards to the Switch version. The fact that that version has been delayed even further, not to mention it flies in the face of, I think, statement that Bethesda wanted that version to launch with the other version. It makes you kind of wonder just how far of a wait are we going to have to wait? Are we going to have to wait like what we saw with Dark Souls Remaster, where we were waiting like say like months after the PS4 and Xbox One version came out in May. I think the Switch version came out in October. So there are some concerns. There are certainly some concerns. I'm hoping this isn't a huge issue or anything like that, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. So overall, a little disappointed with Doom Eternal being delayed though, but hopefully the delay will be well worth it. I am a little worried about the Switch version, to be exact, because that was a version I was looking forward to trying out. I know it's not going to be the best looking version for everybody. I know it won't appeal to everyone, but still, it was a version I was looking forward to trying out. And I'm a little concerned with it having to wait a little bit longer for that version. Maybe it might be well worth the wait, but still, I am a little bit concerned. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with some information regarding the PS5, including what sounds like an official launch date for Sony's next console, the PS5. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 and some new information that has come out for it. As this generation gears towards a close, most likely I'm talking about the PS4 and Xbox One, we're starting to getting some information in regards of what the next generation of consoles is, especially with Microsoft and Sony though. We know obviously Microsoft is working on their next system, I think codenamed the Xbox Scarlet. There have been some information coming out in regards to they want to prioritize frame rate, and we have some information, although not all of it 100% confirmed, in regards of Sony's next system. While they didn't have a name for it then, many assumed it was the PS5 or PlayStation 5. Well, some information has come out in regards of the PlayStation 5, which is now the official term of it, and we now have not only some more information about what could be in the system, but supposedly right now an official release date. Now, a release date could change at any moment, at any time, so who knows if this will be the official, who knows if this will be, Sony will actually release the system on around this time, but given, I would say, I have a feeling it's most likely that they're going to have it out on the certain date, which, according to several articles, are pointing towards a holiday 2020. In an article from The Verge, VERGE, it reads, Sony confirms PlayStation 5 name, holiday 2020 release date, along with new haptic HAPTIC feedback tech that replaced rumbles in controllers. According to basically what they're saying, it says, quote, Sony has confirmed its next generation console will be called the PlayStation 5, which really isn't that surprising at all, and will be out next year, launching in time for holiday 2020. The company also announced several changes that will be making to its controller on the PS5. Citing among them is replacing the current rumble technology that Sony has been using since the original PlayStation for new haptic feedback technology that promises will be offer a broader range of feedback. The other big change that Sony is talking about today is a technology. It's called adaptive triggers, which will go into the primary R2 and L2 triggers on the PS5 controller. According to Sony, developers will be able to program the resistance on the trigger, giving the example that you'll be able to feel the increased tension as you draw back a bow or force you to push down with extra pressure if you're driving through rough terrain. It sounds pretty similar to Microsoft patent from earlier this year, which detailed a similar trigger system for a future Xbox controller. It's unclear if Microsoft's plan to incorporate it into their next generation controller. At this time, they don't know if they're calling it the DualShock 5, but I will not be surprised if they call it the DualShock 5. But they also point will be making the jump to a USB Type-C, as well as other refinements like a larger battery life and improved speaker. Like the fact that it's going to have, they're saying it's a larger battery life. Another thing they point out in an interview with Wire, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan and PS5 system architect Mark Kenry, C-E-R-N-Y, gave us some additional details about the upcoming hardware. There is a ray tracing acceleration in the CPU hardware, Kenry said, clarifying the company's original announcement of ray tracing support and aliasing concerns that Sony might resort to software tricks to manage it, though. The Wire interview also confirmed that the PS5 will use standard 100 gigabyte Blu-ray discs. Sony had previously confirmed that the console will offer a disc drive, but all games will have to be installed into the internal SSD this time around. That super fast SSD is still the biggest update that Sony is showing off, and says that the install requirement is due to the speed difference between the optical drive and the internal solid state one. Sony does promise that the SSD improvement to how it reads data means that games will be able to take up less space, though, which should help soften the blow for mandatory installment requirements. Sony will also let developers break up the installment of their games, saying by installing just the multiplayer component or just the single-player campaign on the PS5. Also new to the PS5 is a complete revamp of the user interface that will show off far more detailed social features on the home screen. Sony promised you'll be able to see and launch directly into specific features of a game like single player levels or multiplayer matches directly from the home screen instead of first having to launch the game and navigate it. So there's certainly a lot of information that has come out about it, though. Certainly they are changing a little bit of their controller, even though they haven't called it DualShock 5 yet. I'm betting that that's what they're going to call it. They're going to call it the DualShock 5, though. The parts I do like about is, although the whole mandatory thing is a little bit annoying, though, I do like how you can either install the multiplayer port or the single player campaign. So let's say if a game has both the multiplayer and single player, you can choose to pick one. I mean, that's great. That means I could jump into if I'm more of a single player person, so if I have a game that has the single player portion, I could jump right into that one while the other part loads. So that's nice that they're adding that. Supposedly adding something like that in here, so that certainly is nice, plus taking up less space. The launch date of holiday 2020, I'm not really shocked about that at all. I'm not really surprised that Sony is launching this in 2020, considering many people thought it was going to come out thought it was going to launch in 2019. I don't see that happening or anything like that. What we don't know is what the system looks like, and there has been some supposedly leaks of patents of what people think the system looks like, but we have to wait until we see the final official design. I would say my hope, though, is that the system is a bit smaller. I don't mind if it looks a little bit like the PS4. I don't want it to look like the PS3. The PS3 was bulky as hell and all that stuff. I would like it to be slim and small as well. So I'm hoping that that's what the PS5 is, but we'll have to wait until they officially reveal the console and everything like that. It's going to be really interesting to see what position the PS5 is going to be this generation, because the next generation, though. This generation, PS4 is really dominated, mostly because Microsoft and Nintendo kind of shot themselves in the foot. But this time around, the situation could be a bit different. Now, it's too early to say what's going to happen and all that stuff, and it's possible Sony could shoot themselves in the foot, so there's always that possibility. But right now, I was not jumping to that conclusion, but it's going to be really, really interesting to see what is going to happen once the Xbox Scarlet comes out and once the PS5 comes out. And as a Nintendo fan, I'm also curious to see what position the Switch will be once those systems come out, though. So overall, some interesting information, though. And I'm not surprised that the release date, holiday 2020, I'm not really shocked by that. I think a lot of us saw that kind of coming, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5. And this one has to do with supposedly a game called Enchanted Port, which many have now accused this as being a Cuphead ripoff. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at Enchanted Portals, a new Kickstarter game that supposedly draws inspiration from Cuphead, although many have accused it of plagiarism or basically downright copying it, though. Now, as some of you may know, Cuphead was released earlier this year for the Nintendo Switch, but was first originally released on the Xbox One and, of course, PC via Steam, and, of course, on the Mac and so forth. It was a game that was in development for a very, very long time, and basically what it is that it's a classic 2D shooter, but focuses mostly on being a boss rush mode type of a game, although there are some there are some traditional running gun shooting levels in the game. One of the games that it was noticed for were a couple of things. One, it's difficult, and believe me, it is a difficult game. And two, its art style. It was known for its 1930s art style based off like 1930s cartoon. So it was kind of interesting to hear this game was basically was following that similar approach to what Cuphead did, but unfortunately it seems that the response has not been very well positive to people who have seen the teaser trailer and so forth. In an article on Dual Shockers, if I'm saying the name right, yeah, Dual Shockers, it reads about the whole Cuphead lookalike enhanced Portal is getting a lot of hate. It reads that XIXO Game Studios, the developers behind the new indie game called Enchanted Portals, is getting a ton of heat right now. The small studio released a trailer for Enchanted Portals yesterday, and people don't like how similar it looks. To Studio MHDR's Cuphead. The trailer started off innocent enough. There's a familiar grayness to the art style, but there's nothing special, nothing like exciting yet. It isn't until we showed to the gameplay that the comparison become unmaskable, and they should have a clip to the trailer. It reads, again, the early part seems fine. The premiere of the story is two young magicians are fooling around with various spells and open something more powerful than they anticipated. They're dragged through a portal far from home. They must relocate all the pages of their spell books to make it back, defeating bosses all the while. It's simple and cute even, but it becomes incredibly difficult to see this game in anything but a copycat trying to safely capture the success it seems others seized with integrity when the gameplay started. The studio responded about the negative feedback the game has gotten. The trailer has so far gotten 40,000 views with almost 2,000 dislikes and 600 likes so far. And they basically have responded to a lot of the criticism towards their game. They're saying, yes, of course, Cuphead was a huge inspiration for Enchanted Portals. One of the developers wrote on Facebook. We're both avid fans, and we wanted to make something similar, but always from a place of respect and admiration for the original. We were prepared for some backlash, but the trailer definitely reaches way more people than we could even anticipated, and all the hate and negative coming our way has definitely had a huge impact on us, though. Supposedly, it's going to be a Kickstarter. It's going to launch on October 24th, unless something changes. And they are aiming for both a Switch and a PC release. Now, I've seen the trailer myself, and yeah, you can't help but notice that it does kind of give the impression of a Cuphead ripoff in a way, though. And some might accuse it of being like it's a poor man's Cuphead, to be exact, though. But I'm not ready to completely dismiss the game. It's possible they might do something different than what Cuphead did. I mean, they only showed a snippet of it, so we'll have to see when they start showing off more, to be exact. But right now, I can see why some people view it as a Cuphead ripoff or a poor man's Cuphead, and I don't really blame them, to be exact. So overall, we'll have to wait and see when they launch the Kickstarter whether or not people are willing to respond to this better than the YouTube trailer and all that stuff. We'll see if the game is successful on Kickstarter or not, but there's no denying that a lot of people are looking at this as a Cuphead ripoff, and I can see to some extent why they are seeing this as a Cuphead ripoff. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 6, and this one has to do with a whole situation in regards of with Blizzard and Activision. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our sixth and final part from my 2 cent video, and this one has to do with Blizzard and Activision and the whole situation with China as well. Now, some of this is going to come off as bit political and all that stuff, so I know anything I say is not going to appeal to everyone, and not everyone will like what I hear, but I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can, my point of view, and I'm going to stand behind what I said. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of what's been going on in China recently. There have been a lot of massive protests. Some of it has been the economic conditions. Others have been part of a law that the Chinese government has passed, basically the communist government, that lets them extradite people from Hong Kong without any due process and so forth, from what I've read and all that stuff. Well, the situation has caught a lot of people's attention, including the kind of situation with the NBA. Basically, I think some players have spoken out against what's going on in Hong Kong, to even the recent episode of South Park that recently went after China over the censoring thing, and China just pretty much basically, like, I think banned South Park from the country altogether, and I think the writers have basically made a sort of a interesting response to it, though, and all that. And recently now, the whole situation has now dug himself into the situation involving video games in general, particularly with the Hearthstone competition. And Blizzard's response to what has happened has really not sat very well with a lot of people, and some even have gone as far as calling for an official boycott of it. In an article from Business Insiders, it reads that Blizzard is under scrutiny from lawmakers, gamers, and maybe even its own employees after punishing a Hearthstone competitor who voices support for protesters in Hong Kong, though. It reads, a single act of protest during a video game competition in Taiwan has garnered international attention and a massive backlash against one of America's largest and high-profile video game companies. Blizzard Entertainment is facing major criticism after punishing a Hong Kong esport competitor, Blitzchung, if I'm saying the name correctly, who voiced support for Hong Kong protesters during a Blizzard-run event on October 5th. Blitzchung, whose real name, apologize if I can't say his name, so Chung Na Wai, again, I apologize if I'm not saying his name correctly, is a Grandmaster level player in Hearthstone, Blizzard's very popular digital card game. During an official broadcast of the Asian Pacific Grandmaster competition, Blitzchung appeared in a post-match interview wearing a gas mask. As the broadcaster ended, Blitzchung shouted, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our ages," which with the apparent support of two tournament broadcasters. It's supposedly been reported that the two broadcasters were also fired and all that. Hong Kong has been under a condition of civil unrest for more than 4 months. Millions of people have marched to demand sovereignty from mainland China and protest increasingly poor socio-economic condition. The ongoing protests has already garnered international attention, with the territory increasing complex relationship with China's communist government as the core issue. Tencent, one of China's biggest companies and the largest video game publisher in the world, owns a 5% stake in Blizzard's parenting company, Activision Blizzard. Blizzard responded to Blitzchung's comments by stripping him of any prize money he would have earned from the tournament and bar him from Hearthstone competition for 1 year. Blizzard said it will no longer work with the two broadcasters who were interviewing this person during his comments. The company's deleted the match and interview footage from its official channel as well. Hearthstone has an international tour offering $1 million in prizes for top-level players this year. Blitzchung has earned at least $3,000 from his wins so far, with the potential to earn more in competition playoff rounds. In a blog post announcing Blitzchung's ban, Blizzard said, "We stand by one's right to express individuals through thoughts and opinion," but Blitzchung's comments were apparently deemed to be harmful for the company. Blitzchung has been standing by his comments. "I know what my actions on stream means. It could cause me a lot of trouble, even my personal safety in real life, but I think it's my duty to say something," he said, according to a statement shared on Twitter by Victims of Communism, a human rights group. It's also said Blizzard's decision has sparked outrage from Americans who say Blitzchung's comments should be protected as free speech, especially given that Blizzard is an American company. Supporter of the protesters in Hong Kong accused Blizzard of compromising its principle to protect its business interests in China. Democratic Senator Ron Wyden, Wyden of Oregon, was one of many who voiced that came to Blitzchung's defense, accusing Blizzard of censorship. This person said, "Blizzard showed it's willing to humiliate itself to please with Chinese Communist Party." The senator wrote in a tweet, "No American company should be censored. Call for freedom to make a quick buck." It's also worth pointing out, I believe, Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida also made a comment as well. Fans have flooded Reddit's message board for Blizzard's most popular games with posts calling for boycotts of Blizzard. The main subreddit dedicated to Blizzard, titled r-blizzard, was set to private mode by moderators because of intense backlash. There have been some people who've come out basically saying stuff like, thank you for assuring I will not purchase another game for you so long as you stand against people of Hong Kong fighting for their democracy, their lives, and their place in the world. I guess money erased any sense of shame you should have over this." Some people have gone as far as doing that. A person by the name of Kevin Hovdestad, a former Blizzard employee, said on Twitter that the backlash seemed to be brewing intentionally. Someone covered up two of the company's key values: think globally and every voice matter, enshrined on a statue at the company's headquarters. It's also worth pointing out that there's been reports of several walkouts from Blizzard employees and all that stuff. I have to say, I do stand with his stand with the the Hearthstone player who basically voiced his support and all that stuff to the Hong Kong protesters. I do stand with him though. Some people may argue and say that he may have violated some of the rules and all that stuff, and that may be so, but Activision Blizzard doesn't exactly have the greatest reputation for lots of reasons. Their push for heavy monetization and recurring user spending, though, their recent firing of several employees because they didn't make all the money in the world, not to mention their CEOs giving themselves bonuses and so forth. And this just adds icing to the cake even more. And this is not good. Definitely not good. And it could have ramifications indeed. And honestly, I stand with the person who voiced their opposition. I stand with the employees at Blizzard who are walking out on Activision Blizzard because of this, though. This is unacceptable, to be exact. I think he had the right to express his opinion and all that stuff. And by basically denying him his reward and basically firing those commentators, you already gave the impression that you're bowing to the will of the Chinese Communist government and all that stuff. Although there have been games that have been censored in China that have made their way over, such I think as removing certain features like supernaturals or skeletons and so forth. But in either case, though, this is not good for Activision Blizzard. Now, whether or not the boycott truly goes through or not, that remains to be seen. It's going to be really interesting because we've seen calls for boycotts from companies before, and not all of them have truly gone through. So I'm very curious to see if this goes through or not. So overall, I would say I stand with the Hearthstone player, even though I'm not a Hearthstone, a fan of the series or anything like that, though. I think even if Activision Blizzard was in the right, even if what he did was right or anything like that, the timing of it was just bad. It's already given the impression that they're bowing to the pressure of the Chinese government and all that stuff, and it's going to be really interesting to see how far this boycott goes, whether it really picks up steam or not, and what kind of financial impact this will have on Activision Blizzard. So I'm very curious. So overall, I personally think it was a dumb move on Activision Blizzard's part. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the whole microtransaction controversy in regards of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, though? Do you think the controversy is legitimate? Do you think people do have a right to be concerned and angry at what Ubisoft is doing? Or do you think some people are taking it maybe a little bit over the top? What are your thoughts about this listing of Call of Juarez Gunslinger and Metro Redux possibly coming to the Nintendo Switch? Do you think these listings are legitimate? Do you think only one of the games will make their way over to the Switch? Do you think both of the games will make their way over to the Switch? And should Metro Redux make its way to the Switch, do you think it's going to be an eShop only release? Do you think they're going to do a physical version? And if so, is it going to be 2 games into 1 cartridge? Or do you think it's going to be one of those 1 game in 1 cartridge, or the other one will have to be a download? Or do you think there'll be separate cartridges for them? What are your thoughts about Doom Eternal being delayed? Do you think you're okay with this delay? Are you disappointed though? And are you concerned that hearing how the Switch version we have to wait a little bit longer for that one? Do you have concerns about that? What are your thoughts about the PS5 having a launch date of holiday 2020? Are you surprised by this announcement? Are you not really that surprised at all? And are you looking forward to the PS5 when it supposedly launches on holiday 2020? What do you think about this Enchanted Portals and many accusing it as being a ripoff of Cuphead? Do you think some people are blowing it out of proportion? Or do you think this is truly a ripoff of Cuphead? And do you think this will be do you think with this launching on Kickstarter, do you think it's going to be successful? And what are your thoughts about the whole situation with Blizzard and Activision in regards of banning or suspending this person for his support for the Hong Kong protesters, though? Do you think Blizzard went way out of line with this in any way? Do you think Blizzard and Activision was in the right? Do you think the boycott will catch on? Do you think this will impact Blizzard and Activision at all? At all in any way, though? Could this have an impact on any future esports competition in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. This will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!